Hey y'all, it's PK back with the high notes, and today we'll be doing things a bit differently. So I was thinking, and it dawned upon me as we discussed fragrances from different houses and we discussed which seasons is best for which fragrance and their note breakdowns. I feel like it'd be appropriate to talk about their different concentrations, the different fragrance concentrations, and which one will be best suited for which occasion as well, as each fragrance has a different type of fragrance oil concentration, and thus that plays a part into finding which one will be best suited for whatever you're out doing for that day. So first I wanted to get into a little of the history, talking about the word perfume a little bit. So perfume comes from the Latin word perfumum. I hope I'm saying that right, perfumum. I'll have the spelling up around here somewhere, which were created from burning aromatic materials during different religious practices and rituals. Okay, and also, as I frequently like lightly touch on in some of my videos when it comes to fragrance being for everybody, fragrance has been long used and was being used by ancient Egyptians and Romans and European aristocrats. They use different oils and scented waters on their body despite sex or gender. So then in comes the capitalistic monster that ends up kind of messing with the art that is fragrance a little bit. So as we approach the 19th and 20th century, um, companies started to realize that they are able to sell more of their scent products if they market them towards men and women separately. So using more sweet and floral notes to match the more conventional theming of the modest woman, and using more woody, spicy notes to fit that like dominating male archetype that the Western hemisphere tends to like to project onto people, which is why we have that whole perfume versus cologne polarity. Yeah, it just got so messed up when money got involved, as it usually does. But yeah. Also, the word cologne used to refer to masculine fragrances, fragrances targeted towards masculine individuals or men, um, is more accurately used in the term eau de cologne, which means fragrant water. Okay, and to put it all together, essentially, big companies and big fragrance houses have been financially motivated and have been scoring big buckets and big bags off the tops of people's heads just by reserving notes and themes for different sexes and genders. Um, I guess the take home for this is, well, I know the take home of this is, don't let society play in your face. Wear what you want, do what you want. It always just comes back to money. But I enjoyed learning this because, of course, of course, it's been about money. Of course, there's this very strong notion that people are meant to be doing something or presenting themselves a certain way, because it all comes back to, how much money can I make off of you specifically? I think that's just like, wow. Now, as we move to start talking about the actual fragrance concentrations, it's good to be aware that different fragrance houses will have different thresholds as to what they would consider an eau de toilette or eau de parfum, X-ray, like eau fraiche, all those types. But this is to give a rough idea of what you can expect from which classification and how to go on from there. Now let's start. I'm gonna bunch these up because we don't see two of them a whole lot, but we'll be starting with eau de fraiche, eau de cologne, and eau de toilette. That would be the one. The eau de toilette is the one that we see more often than not. Eau de cologne and eau de fraiche, you have to really do some searching around. They obviously still exist, but a lot of mainstream designers and even niche, they don't really dibble and dabble with the eau de fraiche or eau de cologne. And if they do, I haven't seen them, like, they won't point directly at it. The labeling usually isn't there from my experience from what I've looked at, but they're definitely still out. Okay, so Eau de Fresh will be the 3% and less category. It is the least amount of fragrance oil that you will find in a fragrance. Then you'll have the Eau de Cologne, which will be juggling in between 2 and 3%. And then you will have the Eau de Toilette, which is between 5 and 15% of fragrance oil. Okay, so Eau de Fresh will be the 3% and less category. It is the least amount of fragrance oil that you will find in a fragrance. Then you'll have the Eau de Cologne, which will be juggling in between 2 and 3%. And then you will have the Eau de Toilette, which is between 5 and 15% of fragrance oil. All right, and Eau de Fresh will be clocking in at 2 hours and less time on the skin. Eau de Cologne will be between 2 and 4, and then we will have Eau de Toilette between 3 and 6 hours on the skin. All of these concentrations will be providing by experience, especially with the Eau de Toilette, monstrous amounts of projection. These are fragrances that you don't have to spray a lot because they usually have so much alcohol as opposed to fragrance oil. The alcohol is what's causing it to help diffuse, and it usually diffuses really fast because they're usually unstable due to the lack of fragrance oil and other supporting substances. They usually do not have those stabilizers, which is causing them to, they touching everybody knows in the room. You're leaving this large scent trail behind you. But yeah, they're not lasting all day on this game, which is really, when it comes to Eau de Toilette, 3 to 6 hours is still a pretty, if you're hitting that 6 hour mark for Eau de Toilettes, which I often can, you're pretty good. It's not, that's not really bad. And really, to be honest, 2 to 4 really isn't bad either, but that is really the range that you have to work with as far as the lower end of fragrance oil concentration. And there's a time and place for these fragrance concentrations. Every fragrance does not need to last 10 plus hours. Sometimes you just want to throw something on to run errands, or you visiting a friend or a relative, or you popping in for a cookout, or just a small little event and you coming back home. Like, you don't need your fragrance leaning, taking you all into the nighttime where you just sitting at home watching TV. That may, depending on the fragrance, that may or may not be a little annoying. So those lower ends of the fragrance scales are very much necessary. So next on the block will be Eau de Parfum. This is the fragrance concentration that you will see probably the most popular. I definitely see Eau de Parfum the most out of all of them, with Parfum straight behind, because everybody wants fragrances that that will last today, the next day, and the day after. When it comes to Eau de Parfum, you are getting 6 to 8 hours of your scent on your skin specifically. This is when you want to go out and you about to stay out. You about to go to a party, you about to dance. You ain't about to be out for a while. And really, to be honest, if you are taking care of your skin, you are well hydrated, and just keeping up with hygiene in your body and things of that nature, you won't have to reapply these. Now, this is not a universal rule. There are some Eau de Parfums that really just are not that strong. And it just that can also depend on the actual fragrance that you're putting on. We're just giving you a rough idea. The projection is much more modest than the Eau Fresh and the Eau de Colognes and the Eau de Toilettes. They are more consistent. However, they're still it's a pretty, I like this Eau de Parfum because they're pretty balanced. Like, you're not necessarily going to be touching every nose in the room, but that's not a bad thing. But you're still going to be having probably past the arm's length of scent bubble, which is pretty generous, especially depending on the situation. You're still going to be having your CIs, depending on the fragrance, where your scent trail is going to be following you. And like I said, the longevity, 6 to 8 hours, is quite a while. As we know, that is a work shift, and I've had Eau de Parfums last me longer than that. So you can really make the fragrance stretch if you want to. But this is my favorite classification as far as um, all the rest. So lastly, we'll have the least intense in terms of sillage and projection, and that is Acre de Parfum, or Parfum, which is pure perfume. This will last you 8+ hours. There has been many times where I have sprayed Extrait de Parfums from the time that I've left the house to whenever I get back home. It is still very prominently on my clothes. And although I'm able to smell them pretty well, it is not, it is the least invasive of all of the concentrations. This is more not when you're trying to get out and be noticed. This is more when you are maybe about to be around somebody that you already have the attention of, and they about to be on you anyway, type of thing. And obviously, different Extrait de Parfums will behave differently, but it's more of an intimate scent bubble, as the fragrance oil is causing the scent is helping the scent to stabilize and just stay on your skin for longer periods of time, while dispersing it's slower, if that makes any sense. Which is resulting in the less sillage and projection, things of that nature. You'll still have it, just nowhere near as the classifications before it. All right, I just want to give you guys some examples. So I don't have any of the Eau de Fraiche or Eau de Cologne concentration of fragrances, but I do have the Eau de Toilette that we've already discussed. I've done an in-depth video about this one. This is Jimmy Choo Man Ice. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. It is a citrus musk that has monstrous projection, monstrous sillage, and for the Eau de Toilette lasts more than 6 hours on the skin, which is wonderful. And then I have an Eau de Parfum Sparkling Sugar. This review is in the works as well. This is by Clean Reserve. This is an Eau de Parfum that does not quite last up to that 8 hours, but I still get like a good 5 to 6 hours off of this. And y'all see the dent in this fragrance. I definitely do enjoy it. Still pending if it will be back in my collection if I ever run out of it, but I definitely do enjoy this fragrance and recommend it if you guys ever see it. And then lastly, I have an Extrait de Parfum that is not of the Dua brand. This is Ristretto Intense Cafe by Montal Paris. This is a rose vanilla coffee scent. Really dope for fall and winter. So, and then the in-depth review will be coming soon on that. But just wanted to give some visuals as to what those concentrations could look like. And all right, guys, that does wrap up all I have on fragrance concentrations for today. I hope you guys enjoyed the slight deviation from the norm. I'd like to provide a comprehensive amount of information on the topic that I discussed, which is fragrance. So, any little bit helps. But yeah, if you enjoyed the video, like the video. If you would like to see more fragrance content, so I do fragrance videos weekly. Subscribe to the channel and comment down below what's your favorite fragrance and what concentration that is. If you know it, it's usually on the bottle somewhere, usually on the box somewhere. But until then, peace, guys. Thanks for watching. See you next week.